All right, so let's knock out this back page of these notes. Again, for my A through K students, last names A through K, you need to have this completed when you come to class on Monday, August 24th. So not tomorrow, or not your first day of face-to-face, but your second on the next Monday, 8/24. And then my L through Z students need this done by this Thursday, August 20th. Again, these aren't for grades, but if you do them, you'll be able to use them on your test or quiz, not your neighbors, but yours. So it's very important you do this, and we're going to refer to them when we do our practices in class, okay? Hi, still using the Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side. I'm going to write that right here so we don't have to flip over. So that's going to be a squared plus b squared equals c squared is what we're using, okay? Number 7, it gives me one leg, gives me the length of another leg, and then it tells me I'm looking for the hypotenuse. So that's going to be my C. We'll call this first leg A, second leg B, third leg C, okay? So I know my answer right here has to be bigger than 8 and 15, so it's got to be bigger than 15. 16 or above, or 15 point something and above is what's going to go in that space right there. All right, so let's get this set up. We've got 8 squared plus 15 squared equals c squared. So 8 squared is 64 plus 15 squared is 225. That's what I thought it was, but I didn't want to write the wrong answer. So guys, if you'll notice, I've been teaching math a long time, and I still punch things into my calculator to check myself. I try to do it in my head, but I always use my calculator. Use your calculator. It's a great tool, so use it. All right, so that gives me, I need 64 plus 225 equals 289 equals c squared. So I'm not finished. Got to get c by itself, so I'm going to take the square root of both sides, and the square root of 289 equals 17. So c equals 17. Is 17 bigger than 15? Yes. Is it bigger than 8? Yes. So that's probably right, and it is. But again, that's just a little quick way to check yourself, so use that. All right? The more of these we'll do, you'll realize when you're looking for the C, it's a little bit easier. It just sets up nicer, it looks nicer, and it saves you a step, really. All right, so let's look at 8. Well, if you notice, we're given C on number 8, so we're given what our C is. So now we're looking for either our A or my B, and I just always make the first one A. So I'm looking for B. So that's going to give me 3 squared plus b squared equals 12. Remember, I got to square that too, okay? Well, 3 squared is 9. 12 squared is 144, but if you hear me, I'm punching that into my calculator just to make sure I'm right. All right, so now I need to get b squared, or b, by itself. Well, I need to get rid of that 9. It's a positive 9, so I'm going to subtract 9. So now I've got b squared equals 144 minus 9 is 135. Yep. Got b squared, but I need b. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. The square root of 135, I don't know if it's going to reduce. Oh, yeah, it does. So b equals 3 square root of 15. Okay, so my answer right here is 3 square root of 15. That's kind of cramped, but there's my answer. Okay, now you might be asking yourself, is that number 3 square root of 15 smaller than 12? And we'll prove it in class that it is. Okay, so just again, get this stuff written down, kind of pay attention to what you're doing, and then we'll talk about it a lot more when we do our practices. All right, so 9 and 10, now we're going to think a little bit. I know how much y'all love thinking, so let's see if we can figure these out. It says determine whether the given length or sides are sides of a right triangle. So basically it's asking me, if I've got a triangle with this, can this be the sides, 12, 20, and 16? Well, let's see. Because remember, we're going to use our Pythagorean theorem. So we're still going to use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. All right, well now which one's a, which one's b, which one's c? Let's do the easiest one first. If this is a triangle, my c has to be the biggest number. So that would have to be my c, okay? So now 12 and 16 have to be my a and my b. It doesn't matter which one I put as which, but I'm going to put my first one as a. So here's, now that we've got it set up, here's what it's asking you. Does this side over here equal this side over here? I don't know just by looking at it, but let's figure it out. 20 squared is 400. So this side over here has to equal 400 for this to be a right triangle. It could be a different type of triangle, but we're trying to figure out if it is a right triangle. So 12 squared is 144. 16 squared, and I do not know that one, is 256. What is 144 plus 256? And it is 400, which equals this side over here. So that one is a right triangle. So yes, it is a right triangle because it equaled one, both sides equaled one another. All right, so let's try number 10. Number 10, I've got 25, 24, 10. So the largest side has to be my C. So that's 25. Don't forget we got to square them though. All right. I'm going to make 24 my A because it's first. It doesn't matter, but that's how I do it. I'll make 10 my B. Okay. So now does this side over here equal this side over here? Well, 25 squared gives me 625. 24 squared gives me 576. 10 squared gives me 100. So 576 plus 100 equals 676. Does that equal 625? No, it does not. That is not true. So this one is not a right triangle. For it to be a right triangle, we would have been able to plug it into this formula, and these two sides come out equal, like these two sides over here. Okay? Now let's play a little baseball. And this is baseball, not softball, because of the length of the bases. That's how I know. So even if you're not a sports fan, doesn't matter. Let's figure this out. So we want to know, find the distance from home plate to second base. Well, here's home plate. There's second base. Well, we know that that is 90, and we know that is 90. Well, that is my right angle. Almost done for you because there's a base there. So that means this is my hypotenuse, or it is C. So that's my A, that's my B. These two sides could have been flopped. This could have been your B, that could have been your A. But I know the one across from the right angle is my C, okay? So let's set it up. We've got A is 90, so that's 90 squared plus 90 squared equals C, but don't forget you have to have that squared there. Well, 90 squared gives me 8100. So 90 squared here has to equal 8100. Looks like big numbers, but again, we're going to eventually take the square root. So 8100 plus 8100 gives me 16,200. And that equals C squared. But again, we don't really care what C squared equals. We need to figure out what C equals. So I need to get rid of that squared. I'm going to do it by taking the square root of both sides. And this one turned it into a decimal for us. And that's going to be C equals 127 point, we're going to go with 28. Well, now let's talk about this, because that is not my final answer. It looks like my final answer because C is by itself. But this is 127.28 what? Is it miles? Is it unicorns? Is it rainbows? Is it monsters. I don't know what it is, but if you'll look, my other two legs were given to me in feet. So I know this has to be feet. So my final answer is 127.28 feet. We'll talk about units more, but for now, make sure you write that unit. So there's my answer. So for a catcher to throw down to second base, basically he's throwing at about 127 feet, 127.28 feet. All right, so that takes care of the back side of these notes. Again, make sure you have these ready and prepared when you come into class, A through K on the 24th, L through Z on the 20th.